The woman had met me after my parents' funeral and greeted me with open arms. She was an attractive lady with a thin waist and a smooth, pretty face. Her long hair tickled my face as she embraced me. She held me tighter than I expected and rubbed her cheek against mine. She towered over me, which was not a large feat since I was only 4 feet 7 inches. I was almost as intimidated as I was intrigued by the greeting. She smiled and finally spoke. "James, you look just like your mother." Her voice was soft and soothing. "My name is Annie Rose. I don't know if anyone has told you yet, but your mother had named me to take care of you if anything ever happened." I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. "Well, if it is okay with you, I would like you to come live with me and my 2 daughters in Georgia. We would all love to have you as part of our family, and we could even help you move in by the end of the week." I slowly answered, "Ms. Rose. Please, James, call me and/or Annie or even Mom if you're comfortable with it. I want you to be as comfortable as possible." There was surprisingly little to talk about. I had no other family and no one else had shown me sincere kindness like Annie had. In less than a week I had arrived at her home carrying a single suitcase with all of my possessions. The house was small but nice and in a very good neighborhood. I even saw a pool in the backyard. It finally began to sink in how much of a new life this was going to be. A new home, a new family, and new friends. The only remnants of my old life were in my suitcase. Annie held open the door for me, and by the time I was in the house I could already hear hurried footsteps and girls shouting, "They're here!" I saw the 2 girls running from the other room and hugging their mother. "Christian and Allison, meet Jamie." The 2 girls stared at me with friendly smiles. I had always been shy, especially around pretty girls. I looked away and blushed. "Aw, you're cute," said the younger of the 2, who was named Allison. I was surprised at the comment since she was definitely younger than I was. It seemed strange that she would refer to me as cute. Then, Annie spoke. "Well, I'll let you 3 get acquainted. I have to get dinner ready for my girls." She paused for a second with an embarrassed look on her face. "And boy. Sorry, James, I'm not used to any males in the house." "Don't worry about it," I said with a smile. The girls looked excited. "Let me show you our room," said the older one named Christian. They grabbed my hand and pulled me along as they ran to one of the 2 bedrooms. The one on the left is Mom's and the one on the right is the kids' bedroom we all sleep in. "All includes me?" I asked. "Of course, silly," said Allison. "I'm just curious, how old are you 2? "I'm 15 and Allison is 12. Christian said. Both girls were extremely attractive teenagers. Allison was still developing at 12, and was a couple inches taller than me. She also looked rather muscular while still remaining feminine. Although I was too embarrassed to admit it, she was probably stronger than I was. She was a brunette wearing a pink blouse, jeans, and cute ankle socks. Her hair was braided into 2 pigtails. Christian was the one I really enjoyed staring at though, with her medium-sized perfect breasts and subtle curves. She looked strong like her sister, and she must have been at least 5 feet 8 inches. She was the perfect weight and had straight blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. Her face had obviously been made over with extreme care and skill that most girls couldn't even manage on their wedding. In short, they were beautiful girls and I couldn't help but be a little aroused. "How old are you, sweetie?" 10, asked Allison. I was embarrassed, but I really couldn't blame them. Puberty hadn't come yet and I still looked like a young child. I had a high voice, and when I answered the phone, the person calling would often accidentally call me Ms. I also had a very slim build, little body hair, and worst of all, I was really short. 14. I answered with a grimace. Oh, wow. I'm sorry, she said with an uncomfortable giggle. I think it's just your hair. It does make you look a little younger. I had grown my hair long in hopes that it would make me look older. Yeah, I've been meaning to get it cut. Please don't, Allison interrupted. It's beautiful. I wish my hair had those kinds of natural highlights. It was summer and my hair had made its usual turn from dirty blonde to golden. To be honest, I liked it, even though some guys thought it was girly. You have to let me braid it sometime, she giggled. This I wasn't sure if I was ready for. We were in the bedroom now, and I was relieved that it was large enough for 3 people to share. It had 2 queen-sized beds, both with baby blue sheets. The walls were colored with pastels and had posters of boys everywhere. There was a makeup table and mirror covered with cosmetics and stuffed animals. It really felt like there was absolutely no space for a boy. Where do I sleep? I asked. Well, Mom said that we'll share a bed now that you're here and you can sleep in the other one, answered Christian. Just then Annie walked into the room. Hi, Gur. I mean everyone. She looked at me. Timothy, I'm sorry that we're not more ready for you. The truth is my husband passed away recently, and he was the major earner of the family. All he was able to leave us was this house. I don't really have the money to buy you a new dresser or bed or anything really. I am embarrassed, but really with everyone's college fund and now another mouth to feed, there is really no money to spare. It's okay. I answered. I wanted to be as least imposing as possible. Really, don't worry. My old bedroom was way smaller. I'm just curious about one thing. What's that, sweetie? I don't mean to sound nosy or anything, but it looks like you've got a lot of nice clothes and cosmetics and stuff. Where do you get everything if you have to save every penny? Annie smiled. That's very observant of you, James. See, I am the manager at a women's department store in town. I'm good friends with the owner, and since she knows my situation, she lets me have whatever I want for free. She's really what saved our family from living in rags. Well, that's nice of her. I couldn't think of anything else to say. Yes, they have everything from sheets, to beds, to clothes, to shoes. In fact, after dinner we'll all stop by and pick up some things. She left the room, and then Christian and Allison began speaking again. We've all had to get jobs since Daddy died, Allison said, and her smile faded a little. Christian then dropped an obvious hint. If you got one, it would really help out. I really would. Where do you 2 work? Maybe I can get a job there too. Christian twirled her hair with her finger. Well, I'm not sure I could get you a job at our place. Why? I asked. Well, you don't look quite old enough, Christian said. But I'm older than you, Allison. Yeah. Allison chimed in. But you don't look it. A job more like babysitting would be more appropriate for you. I was a bit taken aback by this, but I kept my feelings to myself. Annie's voice came from down the hall. Ladies, come in the kitchen. I couldn't tell if she meant me to, but then Allison grabbed my hand and pulled me along. Annie had already set the table and was sitting down. All that was on the table was a salad and vegetable soup. Are we having anything else? I asked. No, dear. Oops. I forgot to tell you, we're all vegetarians. If you'd like, I can fix you something. Don't worry about it. I'm a vegetarian too. I lied. Dinner looks great, said Christian. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mommy, Allison said with a baby voice. Thanks, Mom, I said for the first time, half joking. The girls didn't seem to notice, but Annie gave me a loving smile. I kind of liked that smile. After dinner, we went to Annie's work, which turned out to be an extremely girly store. Nearly all the furniture was pink or had a floral design, and there was absolutely no male clothes or items anywhere. All right, girls. Get what you need, but don't go overboard. Just get what you want and meet me in the front in an hour or so. I decided to ignore that she just referred to me as a girl again. Do I really need to get clothes here, Mom? I asked. I was hoping for another of her pretty smiles. I don't really see anything that will suit me. I'm sorry, James, but this is really all we can afford. Unless you can live on what's in your suitcase, you're going to have to get some new clothes. This frustrated me. I really had next to nothing in my suitcase. Almost all of my possessions were destroyed in the fire that had killed my parents. All I had were the clothes on my back. I began to search the store for anything that resembled masculinity. I followed my new sisters over to the juniors department where they started picking out clothes for themselves. Nearly everything was in pink, yellow, or shades of light blue. I found some pants that looked almost unisex, but when I tried them on, Annie laughed. Sweetie, those are much too big for you. I don't think you're quite ready for the junior department. Then she turned to Christian. Christian, will you show our little pal where the children's department is? Make sure we get everything James needs. Pajamas, swimsuits, shoes, underwear, pants, and shirts. Don't forget anything. Christian led me to the children's department, which had even more girly clothes than the junior section. To make matters worse, I noticed that all of the people shopping in this area were 10-year-old girls. I began to pick things out. It was really getting hard to find things that held onto my masculinity now. Some things weren't that bad. I managed to find pants that were pretty subtle, yet they had flowers or glitter stitched in. I found blouses that were okay, except for the fact that they were tight, showed a bit too much of my stomach, and the sleeves were really short. I picked out several pairs of plain white shoes with pink laces that looked all right, I thought. The socks were at least not much different than what I was used to. The pajamas were made of a soft purple material that had a pattern consisting of letters spelling princess. The best underwear I could find were cotton panties with yellow lace on the waistband. Each pair had a cartoon theme such as Barbie or Snow White. I found the lack of the Y front discomforting. The worst came when it was time to look for a swimsuit. I couldn't find anything that wasn't instantly identifiable as a female garment. I begged Annie to let me forget about the swimsuit, but she insisted that it was necessary. She said that it was a sin not to use the pool they had in the backyard. As I searched for a swimsuit, I began to realize how ridiculously girly all the items were in my cart. I couldn't imagine buying them, much less wearing any of them. I went back to Annie and told her that I would refuse to buy a swimsuit. She started getting irritated and finally called Allison from the cosmetics counter. Allison. Jamie here is too insecure to pick out a bathing suit. Can you do it for him? She looked at me. Pick out that pretty pink one I saw. I looked at her in horror. I'm sorry, James, but we don't have all the money in the world, and this is not going to be the last time you have to shop here for clothes. You need to get over your ego and accept that for the good of this family, we all have to make sacrifices. For the first time, I felt anger towards Annie, but I realized that if she were going to be the mother figure in my life, it would definitely not be the last time I resented her. "Do you want to watch a movie tonight?" Christian asked me. I turned to her. "Sure. They sell movies here?" "Some of the best." I loved movies and was excited to see the selection. I shouldn't have been surprised to see the types of movies they sold, but I was just the same. It was nearly all romantic comedies and a few other girly genres. Only movies with female protagonists. We finally settled on Mean Girls with Lindsay Lohan because I had heard that was good even among some guys I used to know. We all brought our things to the register, where Annie showed the cashier a card and she let us go without paying. We loaded the stuff into the car and drove home. When we got home, Annie made me try on my new clothes immediately. They all fit well and comfortably, and Annie threw my old clothes in the wash. I was ashamed and uncomfortable to be wearing My Little Pony panties, jeans with flowers, and a red blouse with Minnie Mouse on it, but Mom insisted I looked fine. It was already 8:30, so we started watching the movie. While the movie was playing, Allison asked me if she could play with my long hair. "It's so soft." I was actually really starting to get into the plot, and I told her she could without thinking. I really was identifying with Lindsay Lohan's character. It reminded me of all the troubles I had with friends back home. I didn't even notice what Allison was doing with my hair. To be honest, her gentle hands felt nice. Like a massage or something. I only finally turned around to look at her when she stopped. She smiled and said, "Done." I realized to my horror that she had French braided my hair into 2 pigtails just like hers. I tried to untie them, but the braids were done well and tight. "They're just like mine," smiled Allison. Annie laughed. "Now you two look like real sisters." I stood up and stormed out of the TV room into the bedroom. I sat on the bed and looked at the full-length mirror on the wall. It reaffirmed my fears. I saw my already effeminate body in girl's clothes and braided hair. I looked like a young girl. The door creaked open and Christian walked in. "Go away!" I shouted. "Please don't be like that," she said. "I can't believe you all. You can't seriously expect me to go out dressed like this." "I know. I can't believe it either." I was startled. Mom was really mean about the swimsuit earlier. She didn't need to do that. My eyes moved to the shopping bags on the floor where I could see the pink bathing suit sticking out a bit. My eyes filled up with tears. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't even cried at my parents' funeral. I didn't believe in it. Hadn't done it for years. But now I was on the verge of bursting into tears over a swimsuit. Christian saw the tears in my eyes and hugged me. "It's okay. Let it out. Cry and you'll feel better." Before I knew it, I was. I hugged Christian tight and sobbed on her shoulder, and she comforted me by whispering soothing words in my ear. The more she made me feel better, the more I cried. I finally fell asleep in her arms. When I woke up, I was tucked under the blanket I had fallen asleep on top of, and I realized Christian must have picked me up and moved me without waking me up. It was no large feat since I weighed less than 80 pounds. There was a magenta teddy bear in my arms that I had been hugging in the night, and when I took off the blanket, I found that I was wearing my princess pajamas. Had she undressed me too? I went to the shower and found a note that reminded me to put my braids in a plastic bag so I wouldn't mess them up. Before I'd be more than willing to get rid of them, but last night while hugging her in bed, Christian had convinced me that they looked good. As I looked in the mirror and saw them, I had to admit she was right. Compared to my old shaggy mess, this looked way more, what's the word, pretty. I took off my pajamas, placed the bag over my hair, and stepped into the shower. I washed myself with the soap in there, and when I was done I smelled a lot like a girl. I got dressed, pulling my Beauty and the Beast panties on, put on a blue blouse and another pair of jeans, and walked towards the kitchen. Christian was sitting down in the kitchen reading a glamour magazine and eating oatmeal. The Sunday paper was sitting on the table. She smiled and I smiled back. "Where is everybody?" I asked. "They're in the back swimming. Do you want to join them?" "Maybe later." "Oh yeah. Anne. Mom wanted me to give these to you." She handed me a couple of pills. She then saw the skeptical look on my face and smiled. "Relax. They're just vitamins. We all take them." I wondered if I was becoming paranoid. I swallowed the pills. Then I remembered. "Did you change me into my pajamas last night?" "Yeah. I didn't want you to mess up your clothes. But wasn't it kind of weird when you saw my you-know?" "You have to relax, Jamie. We're family now." "I guess you're right. By the way, just a pointer. Your thing would look larger if you trimmed your bush more." "What?" "I don't mean to get too personal, but girls like guys with bigger equipment, and yours is, no offense, kind of small." It was an understatement. I was little more than 2 inches erect. "So you're saying if I shaved my pubic hair it would look bigger?" I said with a hopeful voice. "I have to be honest, Jamie. You'd look better with less body hair in general. Honestly, if you shaved everything you'd be far more attractive." "Really?" "Well, see, the thing is..." I didn't know how to phrase what I was going to say, but Christian gave a knowing smile. "You've never shaved before." I blushed. "Don't worry, Jamie, it's easy. Go into the bathroom and I'll show you." I walked into the bathroom and she followed shortly, bringing her pink bottle of lotion and razor. Into the tub. I climbed into the dry bathtub and she stood outside. She then proceeded to strip me down and not just shave my legs but my arms, underarms, all my pubic hair, and even the little I had on my face. After she finished, she left and I examined myself in the bathroom mirror. The lotion had left me with extremely smooth feminine arms and legs, and as I looked in the mirror, in combination with my pigtails, small stature, and now no body hair, I was now a 15-year-old male who looked like a 7-year-old prepubescent girl. I looked down and saw that Christian was wrong. My penis looked no larger, and since it was flaccid it looked more like a large clitoris. I slipped on my panties in disgust. I looked down and realized that if other guys wore panties there'd probably be a large bulge in front, but I was as flat as any other girl. I went to put on my other clothes, only to realize they were gone. Christian must have taken them with her when she left the bathroom. I poked my head out the door and saw that the coast was clear, but when I made a break for the bedroom, Allison had just ran in the house. She was soaking wet and was wearing a purple bikini. She didn't quite fill it out yet, but she still looked quite attractive. She didn't even seem to notice that I was only wearing panties and just said, "Mom wants you to come out and swim right now." I looked at her and told her I was not going to wear that bathing suit. "Mom said you'd say that and that it wasn't a request but a demand." I still refused. "If you don't wear that bathing suit, I'm going to make you." With that said, she began walking towards me. I turned and ran towards the bedroom, actually scared of what Allison might do. I got to the bedroom with her right behind me and tried to slam the door, but she pushed it open. My first guess that she might be stronger than me proved to be correct. I tried to push her away, but she held me down. I started kicking and smacking her uncontrollably as I felt tears beginning to roll down my face. She caught my arms and held them both in one hand and pushed me on the ground. She had overpowered me as if I was only a small child. I was now crying hysterically, and she held me up and pulled off my panties. She walked over to the hamper and threw my panties in it. In the corner of my eye, I saw in the full-length mirror a naked little girl shamefully covering her privates with her hands as she cried loudly. Allison then picked me up and fed my legs into the holes of the suit and pulled the straps over my shoulders. The suit fit perfectly, and like the panties, there was no bulge to be seen. I looked more girly than ever. I was sobbing in a pink one-piece bathing suit and having my pigtails pulled by what seemed to be an older sister. She picked me up and carried me outside towards the swimming pool where Mom was lying on a lawn chair tanning. When she heard me crying, she sat upright and told me to come to her. I ran sobbing like a little girl. When I got to her, she hugged me, and for some reason I hugged her back. "What happened, sweetie?" she said in a voice that one would use to a baby. Was big mean Allison being mean to my special little girl? Suddenly she turned to Allison and her voice changed to a stern scolding. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing. I just did what you..." I tried to speak over my uncontrollable sobbing. She pulled my hair and then she pushed me and... "I did not." "She's a little liar." I suddenly began to realize that they were referring to me as she, her, and a little girl. I am not a little girl. I'm a boy. "Yes, I know, Angel," Mom said as she held me tighter. Then she turned back to Allison. "You should know better to pick on someone smaller than you are. I told you to help her into her bathing suit, not make her cry. Now go to your room, Allison." Allison stormed off. "It's okay. She's not going to hurt you anymore, darling. Now do you want to go swimming with Christian?" I looked over and saw Christian in the water smiling sweetly. I was still sniffling but nodded. "Okay then. You go ahead." I watched Christian swimming graciously and felt inferior. I hadn't been in a pool since I was a little kid and I had never really learned to swim. I turned to Mom and told her. She smiled and grabbed some purple water wings. Before I knew it, she had them placed over my arms, then picked me up under my arms and handed me to Christian. They were all very strong women. When I was in the water, I stopped crying. I felt so happy and secure in Christian's arms. She smiled at me and I started giggling. By the time we stopped swimming, I felt much better. That night, Mom insisted that I take another pill and that we watch another movie as a family. I didn't want to speak with Allison. I had finally recovered from my hysterics and was now humiliated at how much I let her bother me. That night we watched The Princess Diaries. I loved how she started out as a bland, boring person and became a princess. I identified well with the character, and after watching it, I almost felt like I wanted to become a princess. I got really tired all of the sudden and Mom told Christian to put me to bed. She walked me over to the bathroom. She wiped my face down with a baby wipe and then tried to help me brush my teeth. I insisted that I could do it myself though. I was 14 years old after all. She then walked me into the bedroom, helped me change into my pajamas and asked if I wanted to talk about what happened. Once again I began crying when I thought about Allison. Christian comforted me again. I realized that I was crying much more often than usual, but every time I did, someone came and comforted me. Christian once again soothed me to sleep, and just as I closed my eyes, she handed me a doll to hold. I woke up the next morning with the doll in my arms. Jamie, come in for breakfast. It was Mom. I walked in and she gave me my vitamin. I swallowed it. Where is everyone? I asked. They're all at school, sweetie. It's Monday. Speaking of which, we have to get you enrolled. I guess I'll be going to the same school as Christian. Probably Jamie. See, our school district might be a little different than what you're used to. How so? Well, instead of just going up one grade each year, students take aptitude tests to see how much they have learned and to see which grade they should go in. It really is a good system. Christian needed a little help in 6th grade and was able to stay in it for a few extra weeks to make sure she learned everything. Annie, on the other hand, was able to skip 3rd grade due to her academic success. This was not good news for me. My parents had raised me in a rather poor neighborhood, and my school was pretty much the opposite. The teachers did not really try that hard and moved you to the next year regardless of what you learned. I had slid up to the 9th grade without trying and had poor reading skills and hardly any mathematical capabilities. Just relax. I'm sure you'll do fine on the test, and if you don't, we'll help you each step along the way. I changed out of my pajamas into panties, another pair of flowered jeans, and a blouse. I began to walk towards the door when Mom stopped me. You're wearing jeans again. That's all I bought at the store. Well, last night after you fell asleep, me and Christian went back and got you a present. She pulled her hands from behind her back and held out the surprise. Do you like them? It was a jean skirt with pink flowers stitched into it. In her other hand were a pair of white pantyhose to wear under the skirt and a pair of black Mary Janes. I looked at her and told her that I would not wear them. Please, Jamie. I know you'll look nice. No. I insisted. Don't be difficult, Jamie. Now go into your bedroom and change into your skirt right this instant. Never had I been so scared of a raised voice. For some reason I grabbed my skirt and ran into my bedroom. By the time I reached the door, I was crying again. I sat down on the bed and took off my jeans. I began slipping the tights up my legs over my panties. Then I stepped into the jean skirt and zipped up the back, stepped into my Mary Janes and clipped them closed. Mom walked in. Now, Missy. Go sit on the makeup table and let Mommy fix your hair. As I looked in the mirror, I saw that the once neat braids had become loose and messy. Mommy sat me down at the makeup table and began brushing out my hair. After she was done, she grabbed a pink scrunchie and pulled my hair back into a ponytail. As she worked, she noticed that I kept looking at all the cosmetics. There were lots and lots of bottles of nail polish, lipstick, and other things that I couldn't recognize. Finally, she said, "Here, I'll help you." She grabbed a bottle of lip gloss and began applying it on me. No. Mommy. Mommy, I'm fine. Don't worry, it will just take a second. She was right. In a moment she had applied lip gloss and mascara. I looked in the mirror and saw a pretty little girl that looked around 7 years old. All right, Annie, now let's get to the school for your test. Can I go to the bathroom first? I asked. Make it quick. I ran, hearing my Mary Janes tapping against the wooden floor, towards the bathroom. When I finally got everything off, I looked down to see that my already small penis was even smaller. In horror, I realized that it wasn't even long enough to pee standing up. What was happening? I sat on the toilet and peed like the girl I was turning into and then ran to catch up with Mommy. When we arrived at the school, which was called Sister Rebecca's, Mommy held my hand and led me to the office. She filled out some paperwork and then another woman led me into a private room for the test. That is a very pretty skirt. I didn't know what to say. She sat me down and began asking me questions. They started out so easy it was embarrassing. What's this a picture of? Who is the president? What's 3 plus 1? Then they began getting harder. What is 5,831 divided by 427? I was allowed to use a pen and paper, but I didn't even know where to start. When I was done with all the questions, I couldn't help but feel that I did poorly. Did I pass? I asked. Oh, the test doesn't work that way, sweetie. Don't worry, your mommy will explain the results to you. I was then fitted for my school uniform, which was given directly to Mommy, and then we drove home. On the way home, Mommy explained to me that my scores indicated I was just barely qualified for the first grade and that I would be starting it tomorrow. I couldn't believe that I was going back to school with 6 and 7-year-olds, while Allison, who was younger than me, was with 13-year-olds. I started to cry. Allison and Christian are going to laugh at me. Oh no. Jamie, don't be silly. They'll understand. When we got home, Mommy handed me my school uniform to try on. It was a traditional Catholic schoolgirl's uniform with a blue and white plaid skirt and blue vest. Mommy! This is a girl's uniform. You didn't know? Sister Rebecca's is an all-girls school. It's one of the finest private schools in the nation, and it is owned by the same person who owns my store. Your tuition is free and I intend to take advantage of it. But Mom... Please, Jamie. It's not like you have shown any resistance against wearing girls' clothing. I mean, look what you're wearing right now. Sure enough, my skirt, stockings, and pink blouse agreed with her. Now, no more whining. Put on your school uniform. With that, she began to pull off my blouse. I tried to fight her off, but it was pointless. Soon I was standing in front of her in just my panties on, trying to shield them with my small hands. Relax, we're all girls here, Annie, she laughed. I am not a little girl. I screamed and I punched Annie as hard as I could. She didn't even seem to feel it. She just changed to a stern face and lifted me up over her knee. No hitting in this house. With each word, she slapped my bottom hard. My face was red and I was crying harder than ever. When she finally stood me back up on my feet, my crotch was wet. Now look at this, she laughed. You think you're not a little girl, but you aren't even potty trained. I cried louder. Let's get you cleaned up. She picked me up and carried me into the bathroom. She took off my wet panties and began wiping my privates with a baby wipe. I looked down and saw that my manhood had nearly completely retreated inside what seemed to be the beginnings of a feminine trench between my legs. It looks like little Jamie needs a nap. You can try on the new nightgown we got you. With that, she carried me to the bedroom and changed me into a girly nightgown with fairies on it. Then she laid me on my bed. I'm not tired. I shouted like a girl having a tantrum. It was a lie. The moment my body had touched the bed, I had grown sleepy. Sure, you're not, Mommy laughed. Now, which dolly would you like? How about Sarah? She handed me the Sarah doll. I took it and threw it on the ground. I don't want Sarah. Mommy smiled. That's okay, sweetie. With that, she turned off the lights and left the room. Only a few moments after she shut the door, I was fast asleep. I woke about 2 hours later when Mommy opened the door. Ready to get up, princess? To be honest, I really felt a lot better and did not feel the least bit angry. Suddenly, I realized that I was all wet. Mommy read my face and I could see that she smelled it. Ah. Were you scared without your dolly? Did you have an accident? I nodded with tears in my eyes. It's all right, sweetie. Tonight, I'll go out and get you some special bedtime panties, just in case. I started crying softly again. Oh, don't worry, Annie. I have some good news to cheer you up. What? I said. Allison's friend Melissa is here to sleep over. Her parents are out of town, so she's staying here for the night. Once again, I didn't know what to say. If you're good, you can stay up late and play with the big girls. I nodded. Mommy changed the sheets and I went in the other room to say hi to everyone. Everyone was watching TV. I saw a new face who I knew must be Melissa and said hi. Aw. She's so cute. I like your nightie, Jamie. I forgot what I was wearing, so I ran back and changed. I sat down with them on the couch. They were watching some makeover show and were talking about a variety of subjects focusing mainly on clothes and boys. After we were finished watching TV, they all went to the bedroom. Christian invited me to come along. It was already late, so we all changed into our sleeping clothes. My pajamas were all in the wash, so I put on my Barbie doll panties and a tight white belly button t-shirt that said Girls Rock. They began to get out facial cream and nail polish and began applying it. I just watched. Suddenly, Melissa looked at me and smiled. She is too cute. I think little Jamie wants a makeover. I was starting to feel really lonely since I couldn't really participate in any of the conversations. I was just about willing to do anything to be involved, so when they crowded around me and began leading me to the makeup table, I didn't put up much resistance. First, they put the facial cream all over me just like they had done to themselves. It felt uncomfortable and sticky, but I just laughed. Then Allison began painting my finger and toenails a bright pink color that matched my panties. The finishing touches came when they put my hair once again in braids. Now remember not to mess with these, Tiffany, until tomorrow, reminded Allison. After that, we all lied on the floor sitting on top of the sleeping bags. Allison and Christian got out some magazines with lots of pictures of boys and began showing Melissa their favorites. Melissa had her own opinions. Finally, I got curious and looked over their shoulder at the magazines. Who do you think is the cuter Jamie? Heath Ledger or Jake Gyllenhaal? Melissa asked me. I don't know. I don't really like boys, I answered her uncomfortably. You will when you're older, laughed Christian. No, I won't. I shouted back. Yes, you will. Allison howled. With that, she grabbed me under the armpits and started tickling me. I laughed uncontrollably as I tried to break free. And you'll have boobies. And you'll have boyfriends. And you'll have. Allison continued to tease as she continued to tickle me. I tried to kick and break free of her, but she was too strong. The helplessness of it all was starting to get to me, and I began crying. Right then, Mommy walked in the door. Do you ladies know what time it is? It's over an hour past Jamie's bedtime, and you all have school tomorrow. She is going to be a basket case tomorrow. Why is she crying? Allison stopped tickling me and I ran to Mommy and hugged her. It's all right, sweetie. You can sleep in my bed tonight. I nodded. All right, now go get ready for bed. Grab your dolly. I don't want another accident and use the potty before bed too. And make sure you wipe your vagina afterwards. I don't have a vagina. I muttered softly as I picked up Sarah and stomped towards the bathroom. Yet when I pulled down my panties, I realized that she was right. Between my legs was looking much more like a vagina than a penis. Not only that, but my pants were already wet. I had pee in my panties without even noticing. What was happening to me? I ran to Mommy crying. Mommy looked at me with a disappointed expression. It looks like we're going to have to go to full-time diapers for you, young lady. Now give me your dirty panties. I handed them to her and wailed tears of embarrassment. She once again picked me up and took me to the bathroom. The girls saw me with only a t-shirt on and my vagina visible, crying as Mommy carried me past their room. She wiped my vagina and bottom with a baby wipe and then put some baby powder on my privates. Then, she slipped on the disposable diaper. I saw the package and it was obviously designed for the female anatomy. Mommy woke me up the next morning and asked me if my diaper was wet. I had actually pooped in them. You better get control of yourself, Missy. Maybe you're not quite ready for school yet. She removed my wet diaper, wiped me with another baby wipe and then threw the diaper away. I was standing in front of her completely naked, trying to cover my vagina with my hands. You better go put on your school uniform or else you're going to be late. I gave her a look. I don't want to have to tell Allison to make you put it on, but I will. She then grabbed my hands from my privates and forced them to my sides. Stop being so shy. We all know what a vagina looks like, she giggled. She then put on my diaper and gave me my vitamins. Mommy decided that I wouldn't start school until I became more adjusted with my new environment. We waved goodbye to Allison and Christian and then Mommy called the school and told them my situation. I felt extremely embarrassed when she mentioned my toilet troubles. I then went into my bedroom and tried to put on my jeans, but they wouldn't fit over my diaper. I told Mommy and she told me that I'd have to wear skirts from now on and she'd pick up more for me. Well, I have to go to work and I can't leave you here alone, she said. What am I going to do while you're working? There's a nursery at the store. You can play there. She then walked me out to her car. There was a children's seat in the back and I asked her about it. Well, in Georgia now there is a new law that says anyone under 60 pounds has to sit in a special seat, so I got you one last night. But I weigh more than 60 pounds. Mommy laughed, picked me up and carried me inside to the bathroom where there was a scale. She had me stand on it and I was astonished to see that I now only weighed 53 pounds. Was I shrinking? Mommy then picked me up and strapped me into my car seat as we drove to my new nursery.